Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama, everywhere that you're watching the Joe Gaither Show right here on today, Cowbell Corner and cowbellcorner.com. I am Joe Gaither. We're a proud part of the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network, along with Blue Collar Unplugged. We're going to have a lot of fun on a beautiful Wednesday. We're going to catch up with Missouri, with Mississippi State, and we'll finish with some Alabama. We're starting with Mississippi State. We're going down 82 to catch up with what's going on in Starkville right here on cowbellcorner.com. So I'm really, really excited to welcome in one of the writers that you read each and every day, Jacob Bain. You can follow him on the Twitter machine at JacobBain10. Jacob, what's good, man? How is your Wednesday going? Oh, there you go. Perfect.
It's going good. How are yours?
It's going pretty well. We're just hanging out. We're trying to get closer to the Christmas season and get into bowl season. But Mississippi State is not in bowl season. Mississippi State is in kind of transition season. So you guys are having lots of transitions. We've talked to Kenzie Bradenberg. We've talked to Justice Sandel already on Cowbell Corner about Jeff Lebby a little bit. Let's get your perspective on the hiring of Jeff Lebby, the newest football coach for the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Yeah, he was somebody that you heard early on the search. State obviously was looking for somebody with head coaching experience, and Jamie Chadwell was the early name you heard and now his infamous tweet that was edited and said Starkville. But I like the hire. He runs an exciting offense. He's young. He's a passionate recruiter. And a big thing for me anyway is who he's worked under. He's worked under Heupel and Kiffin. Both those guys have had success on the offensive side of the ball, and it translates to wins. So I think it's a good hire.
Absolutely. Well, he's been very busy. So we already kind of talked about Jeff Lebby with Justice Sandel and Kenzie Bradenberg, but he's been very busy because he's been hiring assistant coaches. He's been filling out coaching staffs. He's been recruiting. Let's hit on some of the assistants that he's already brought in. Let's start with Coleman Hutzler. Coleman Hutzler, current outside linebackers coach and special teams coordinator at the University of Alabama. He's going to stick with Alabama until the playoff run is over, but he is moving to Starkville to take over as defensive/co-defensive coordinator in Mississippi State. He hasn't really, what do you think about his poaching from the Alabama coaching staff?
It's always good to poach somebody that's coached under Nick Saban, and he was the co-defensive coordinator at Texas in 2020, but I was expecting State to hire somebody with a little more experience, maybe somebody like DJ Durkin, somebody like that. But, he's a good recruiter. But, because he's at Alabama, or is he just a good recruiter in general? But he's worked under Saban, so, I trust him.
How important is it to retain Chad Bumphus as wide receivers coach?
I would say he's the best recruiter in the staff. He's got 2 4-star commits, and there's another Stonka Burnside, who's another one he could get. Play State. I think he's State's best recruiter, so I thought it was very important to keep him on staff, and something that I figured he would do.
When I've talked to Kenzie before and I've talked to Justice before, I've asked them, and I'll ask you this as well. With Jeff Lebby coming into Mississippi State to take over, what's the expectation for the Starkville faithful? What's the expectation for people who cheer for Mississippi State? Because obviously, this year was terrible. This year was like basically last in the division. What's the expectation? Obviously, there's not going to be the expectation to take down Alabama tomorrow, but what is really this is what we want our football program to be?
The expectation, I wouldn't say are too high, but fans are always going to expect more, especially with the transfer portal now. You can flip a roster very quick, and so I think expectations are not too high, but I think there's still pressure on him, considering Ole Miss is coming off a 10-win season. I think that puts even more pressure on him.
Are you safe in Starkville if you just win the Egg Bowl and stay bowl eligible?
I think to an extent. Maybe his first year, if he wins the Egg Bowl, that would give him some room for for improvement, but I wouldn't say if he just wins the untouchable that he'll have a job for life. At some point, they're going to expect more from him.
We're talking to Jacob Bain of Cowbell Corner. You can follow him at Jacob Bain 10 on the Twitter machine. You talked about the transfer portal. Let's talk about somebody who transferred out. We already talked about Will Rogers with our friends Kinsey and Justice. Let's talk about Woody Marks. Woody Marks goes into the transfer portal. And then 2 days ago, announces he's going to South Carolina. Obviously, didn't really expect Woody Marks to be retained, but just, pretty daggum good running back. And he's staying in the league. What's going to be the reaction to see him stay in the SEC? I know the SEC East, I guess we're not going to do divisions anymore, but to see him stay in the SEC.
Yeah, Woody was definitely somebody that State would have liked to keep, but he's always had problems with, especially this year, staying healthy and all that stuff. And he would have been somebody that State would have liked to keep, but him leaving, I think new era you're not getting rid of, but new era and Woody's, he's having trouble staying healthy. So, I think he'll fit in good anywhere. He's a very talented running back, but he's always had problems staying on the field and staying healthy, just hampered him in his career at times.
Well, Coach Lebby's been pretty busy already, and he's got a transfer portal quarterback coming into Starkville. Blake Sheppin from Baylor had a pretty good little year at Baylor this past year. Big 12, honorable mention All Big 12 in 2022. He's going to be a redshirt senior, I believe. Yeah, tell us about Blake Sheppin, and will he basically walk right into the starting position in Starkville?
I think he'll get a chance to start, but State also has Chris Parson, a 4-star who played some this year. He struggled, but I think Shapen will be fine, but I think he's somebody good to bring in and compete. And I still think State and Levy both are in the portal, still looking for a quarterback, maybe DJ, U, or get somebody young like a Ty Thompson, I believe. He's transferring from Oregon. I think they want to bring in another younger guy, but if Shapen has to be QB1, I think that will be fine. But I don't think he's not guaranteed for that. I think he'll compete with Chris Parson and whoever else they bring in.
Well, what else is Jeff Lebby and his staff going to be going after in the next 7 days? It's going to be early signing date next Wednesday, and Mississippi State currently sits with the number 40th overall recruiting class. If you're looking at 24/7 Sports, you already talked about Chad Bumpus, just a hint, getting some of these 4-star receivers. Why don't you highlight some of these guys that are in this Mississippi State recruiting class, and maybe some guys that Jeff Lebby is going to try to persuade to join the class in the next 7 days?
The first guy that really stands out to me is JJ Harold. He's been committed to State since June, I believe, and he's been very active on Twitter and social media, recruiting other guys to join him. And another guy that they got during the summer was Jimothy Lewis. He's originally from Madison Ridgeland Academy here in Mississippi, but he transferred to IMG. And he's a 4-star guy. And, he had a good relationship with Will Friend, who was not retained, so that was always a worry. But he visited this weekend, and it seems that it went well. And a guy that committed the same day as JJ Harrell, but he is Stone Burnside from Starkville, and he decommitted. And it seems that State's back in the lead when he officially visited this weekend, and he's announced that his final two will be State and Ole Miss, but he's yet to officially visit Ole Miss. And this weekend, he's in the Mississippi-Alabama All-Star game. So we don't know if he'll be able to officially visit Ole Miss. I'm sure they'll try definitely to flip him or try to get him in the boat. But another guy from Meridian is Daniel Hill. He's a 4-star athlete. He's really good. State got him on an official visit this weekend, and that's a far cry because he did camp at State this summer or visit this summer. But getting him on campus was a big deal for Levy and them. And I think it was reported, he said it was one of his top 2 official visits he's been on, and I think State could get him, but I think if Alabama really pushes him for a commit, that he will go to Alabama.
Let me pause you right there. Let me pause you right there on Daniel Hill, because Daniel Hill has been such an interesting prospect this whole summer and really fall, because if family ties to Mississippi State. Father played at State. Kid seemed like he wanted to go to South Carolina for a little bit of time. And it seemed like family said, no, that's too far. No, okay, so let me go to Tuscaloosa. No, we want you to State. Okay, and then he's flirting with Tennessee. He's been doing this dance with State, with Alabama, with Tennessee, with South Carolina, really for 3-4 months. You've been following it from the State perspective, Jacob. You just said that you think that they have a chance to land him. What's been the feel? What's been kind of the reaction to Daniel Hill? Because he's kind of been it seems like leaving Mississippi State on the back burner, like, oh, you're the girlfriend that'll always love me. I'll just go see if I can get somebody hotter for a little bit, and if not, then you're always going to be there for me. What's the feel about Daniel Hill? I mean, he's a legacy.
Yeah, he is. He's a legacy, but Meridian is close to Tuscaloosa, and it's typically been hard for State to pull guys out of Meridian, even though they're in-state kids. But it is really weird. Daniel Hill had showed no interest in State or Ole Miss. He was set to go out of State, and like I said, just getting him on an official visit was a big deal, because he had never stepped foot on campus as a recruit. But Jeff Levy and I think Chad Bumpus helped a little in getting him on campus, and obviously they're going to get a recruiting boost after the visit. And but I think if Alabama decides they don't want to push a commitment for him, I think he could very well end up at State or South Carolina. But I think he wants to go to Alabama, and if Alabama pushes him for a commit, then he will end up there.
That's what's been so strange to me, Jacob, is I do think that Alabama does want him. And so it's been like, well, if Alabama wants you and you want Alabama, why don't you just go ahead and just lock it on down? It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him over the next 7 days. Let's hit basketball real quick before we round up out of here. Mississippi State 7-2 already on the early part of the season. Give me an update on Tulu Smith. How's his foot? What's his outcome for coming back? He's probably 3-4 weeks still away. And really, Mississippi State bounced back from the Georgia Tech loss in the SEC Challenge. Don't worry, Alabama lost as well to Clemson, so you're not alone. What's the kind of, we're in that December lull for Mississippi State on the precipice of SEC play?
Oh, yeah. Chris Jans said on Monday, I believe, that Tolu will get a scan on his foot on Thursday, and I believe he will be back before an SEC game. That's just been reported that he won't miss an SEC game fully and earlier than expected. But, yeah, they lost to Georgia Tech and Southern, which was a bad loss, a 4 loss more than likely. But they bounced back and won big against a good Tulane team. But in their 2 losses, they just struggled. They have a lot of depth this year, something they didn't have last year, and I think they just – I think they just need to find the right starters. And that 2-game stretch was the first time on Chris Jans that fans were worried about the team and the effort and all that stuff. But they bounced back against Tulane in a big way and won by, I think, 35 points and scored over 100 points for the first time since 2018.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun covering Mississippi State with Jacob Bain and Cowbell Corner. Jacob, tell everybody where they can follow you, anything that you're interested in that we haven't hit on today, and really just what you're looking forward to for Christmas.
I guess I'm looking forward to bowl season in football. That's coming up sometime soon, and but that's more like New Year's.
What is somebody who doesn't have a bowl game to look forward to? What are some of these games that you're looking forward to the most?
Georgia, Florida State is one I'm looking forward to, because Florida State feels like they got a route of a playoff spot, and now they're playing Georgia, who feels they had a claim to the playoffs, so that should be good. Obviously, the playoff, I'm looking forward to seeing Alabama and Michigan, and seeing how well Alabama can play against Michigan and their physical style. And yeah, that's the one I'm looking forward to the most. Ole Miss Penn State is a good matchup as well.
Absolutely. Oh, that is going to be a huge game. Jacob, follow Jacob Bain at Jacob Bain 10 on the Twitter machine. Thanks so much for joining us today on Cowbell Corner, man. I hope you have a great day.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. That's Jacob Bain joining us on cowbellcorner.com, and you're watching this on really all kinds of platforms. We're going to take a little break. We're going to come back with a little bit of Missouri report. Joey Van Zumeren is going to join us to talk about the Missouri Tigers, and we'll keep things rolling on this Wednesday right here on the Joe Gaither Show. We're on BamaCentral.com. We're on cowbellcorner.com. We're on MizzouCentral.com. We're always on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. You can follow us at the BamaCentral YouTube channel or at Joe Gaither 6 on all your social media machines. We'll be back in just a little while with Joey Van Zumeren of Mizzou Central. All right, welcome back to the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral, Cowbell Corner, and now on MizzouCentral.com. Hanging out with you on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon right here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as well. We want to thank Jacob Bain joining us from Cowbell Corner already this morning. We talked about Mississippi State. We talked about Jeff Levy, his new coaching assistants, a little bit of recruiting as well. Now it's time to head up to Columbia, Missouri, and we'll find our friend Joey Van Zumeren from MizzouCentral.com. You can follow him at JoeyVZ_ on the X machine, and we've got a lot of Cotton Bowl stuff to talk about. First, Joey, how was your Thanksgiving? And good to see you, sir.
It was great. Great to join you again, Joe. Had a great Thanksgiving, wrapping up finals this week. So excited for that. And then, like you mentioned, obviously a lot of things going on in the Mizzou sports world. So excited to talk about that today.
Absolutely. Make sure you keep up with Joey Van Zumeren and all of his work at MizzouCentral.com. Okay, is there going to be even an opponent when Missouri gets down to Dallas for the Cotton Bowl? Ohio State transfers out, opts out, lots of movement on the Buckeye side. Is Missouri and Eli Drinkwitz licking their chops at the possibility of beating a blue blood in a big-time bowl game?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to watch Ohio State kind of all their, like you mentioned, all the movement they've got going on there. The big one obviously being their quarterback, Kyle McCord, entering the transfer portal and not playing in this game. So it's going to be Devin Brown getting the start there for Ohio State at quarterback. But I think that situation really just shows off the amount of depth that Ohio State has. They're obviously going to recruit very well. Devin Brown is a 4-star quarterback coming out of high school, was the 5th highest quarterback in the class of 2022. So he's still going to be a good player. It does not take away any challenge for Missouri, other than the fact that Ohio State now is going to have only a month to prepare with a whole new starting quarterback. And obviously, I'm sure the team is familiar enough with him as he was competing with McCord during this offseason, but it obviously is still going to be an adjustment for them. So I think, like I said, that situation really just shows off all the depth that Ohio State is going to have. But then also it seems that, even though Ohio State, with all the success they have, it would seem that, being in the Cotton Bowl is just kind of another year for them. It wouldn't mean as much as it would for some other schools. It seems like, from at least what the players are saying, that this game will still mean a lot to them. They do not want to end a really good season off on a loss to Michigan and have that be the headliner for the 2023 season. So they really want to get this win. Some of the players talked to the media yesterday, including wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, hard name to pronounce there. But he and a few other players spoke to the media, and they seemed really motivated for this game. Egbuka said that he would be playing in this game, even though he will likely be declaring for the NFL draft sometime soon. And that Egbuka specifically is big news for Ohio State to have. I think he was the third leading receiver for Ohio State this season. And I think he will be really a matchup that Ohio State and Ryan Day over there will try to expose as far as a mismatch going up against Missouri's defense. They obviously have two of the greatest cornerbacks in college football, and Ennis Rakestraw and Chris Abrams-Drain. Rakestraw is questionable for that game as he has been dealing with a leg injury for the majority of this past season here. So that's definitely something to watch, that matchup. And also, too, Rakestraw and Abrams-Drain mainly play the boundary, and Mbuka is much more of a slot receiver. So it'll be interesting to see how Missouri's defense and Blake Baker try to combat that. So he's announced he's playing, and then it will really be over these next 2 weeks heading into the game, seeing all the other movement. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. will be a guy to watch. He's obviously expected to declare for the draft in the coming days, and then he'll have to make the decision of whether he wants to play or not. But really, just like I said, Ohio State has a lot of depth, and no matter what, it's going to be a tough challenge for Missouri.
Well, I think the Cotton Bowl is one of the games, one of the non-playoff games that I'm looking forward to the most. I mean, obviously, Florida State and Georgia in the Orange Bowl is going to be very dramatic, depending on who shows up in those games. But Missouri, from a Missouri standpoint, I think there's a chance for Missouri to really put a big old stamp on their season and say, yes. You didn't think that the SEC was very strong this year, or maybe we went to Athens and lost. LSU came in and beat us, but we're a real good football team, and we're going to show Ohio State. Even with the opt-out, the problem. My issue, Joey, is that if Missouri ends up winning, first my issue is that Green Bay Packers Cup, but really, if Missouri ends up winning, the narrative, everybody's going to say, well, Ohio State didn't want to be in there. Ohio State had all the opt-outs. They're going to discredit the win. But I think Missouri has a really good chance to say, you know what, here's our stamp, and this is our big step forward as a program. We're here no longer in the SEC East, but as a pretty much top half player in the SEC as long as Drinkwitz is around. So really just the moment, the opportunity. Obviously, Missouri is really seizing the moment or so. Just how important is it for Drinkwitz to come away with a victory in this Cotton Bowl?
Drinkwitz was actually in the press conference he had on the day that the Cotton Bowl was announced. He was kind of playing it down a little bit, that the opportunity for them. Because I don't think he wanted to build it up too much, build up the expectations too high for his players.
But you're not playing Wisconsin in the Cotton Bowl. You're not playing
right. Exactly.
Somebody. Ohio State is one of the 7 blue bloods of the sport. It's a big deal.
Right. He played it down a little bit, but I definitely think he would agree that this is a massive opportunity for Missouri, a massive opportunity for the program to really show off that none of this season was a fluke. And like you mentioned, of the possibility of people downplaying it if Missouri does get a win, and that has kind of happened all season for Missouri. Every time they get a big win, there's always an excuse that the narrative seems to cling on to. But like you mentioned, a blue blood like Ohio State, a massive stage for Missouri to really cap off kind of a building year, a launching pad for the program's future, if you will.
Absolutely. And a part of that launching pad in the program, part of the recognition of what the program has been was last week the SEC put out its awards. You had SEC Newcomer of the Year, SEC Offensive and Defensive Players of the Year. But for the Missouri Tigers, SEC Coach of the Year, Eli Drinkwitz. All right, so I am Johnny-come-lately, never paid attention to SEC football this year, and I'm going to say, Joey, what the heck? Eli Drinkwitz wins Coach of the Year. He doesn't deserve it. His name's not Nick Saban. His name's not Kirby Smart. And your reaction is?
Okay. First off, the best measure for Coach of the Year awards is always just improvement. That's basically, if you look at NFL, college football, it's always, where can either a coach that takes over a losing program takes it to the next step, or just a season to season where a coach takes that massive improvement. And that's the case with Missouri, certainly, and for Drinkwitz, going pretty much just around 500 in his first few years, and then in 2023 finally putting it all together. That's the biggest case, just that improvement. And I think mostly it's just all of the players seem to buy into his program, no matter how corny it may seem from the outside, his whole personality and everything.
If they're buying it, then who cares?
Yeah, exactly. It is funny to see kind of the difference in Drinkwitz, at least this year in the media, being kind of buttoned up and everything. That's definitely a change from the past few years as well. And then just seeing how he interacts with the players from the content we get from like post-game Instagram live streams from the locker room, which is always fun. But yeah, they have all seemed to buy into his program, and the kind of maybe over the top some people might consider of the sayings or possibly cliches people might consider of something to prove and whatever. The players are all bought into it, and if they don't buy into it, none of this works, and they don't have a 10-2 season. So just that improvement is the easiest way to measure. And then also, he recognized some issues that led to kind of their failures in the past few years, and he made some changes to those. Hired Kirby Moore as his offense coordinator, which seems to be a great success. And he talked about this again in his press conference after the Cotton Bowl was announced, of how he had to change his mindset heading into this season. He said, that he realized or remembered that 90% of coaching college athletes is just about motivation, and that in the past he had got too lost in the sauce, too lost in the X's and O's, wasn't focusing enough on the Jimmies and Joes. So this season he really focused on building those connections with players. And that has worked to his favor.
That's incredible. And that's a great lesson, really. Coach Saban likes to talk about the players don't care what you know until they know that you care. So Eli Drinkwitz kind of taking a little bit of a page out of that. And I was facetious. I think Eli was a great choice. Easily top 2 candidate. I mean, you could go the old tried and true and check off Nick Saban off the box, but Eli deserved recognition for a great season, and I'm hopeful that it continues for Eli Drinkwitz and the Missouri Tigers. It's going to be a big 7 to 8 days. I'm not going to ask you about anything specifically recruiting-wise. Next Wednesday is early signing day. Do you have anything that you're looking for over the next 7 8 days before we move on to football or move on to basketball? Excuse me.
Not necessarily as far as recruiting. The transfer portal is definitely exciting to watch. They've gotten so far Georgia State running back Marcus Carroll, and then Clemson cornerback Toriano Pride. So really exciting to see that. And back to Drinkwitz again, he talked about earlier in the season just the fact that now that they actually have these results, they're selling success. They're actually selling tangible, seeable things instead of a vision, selling potential. So that's obviously big, and I'm sure we'll see that play out over this next recruitment cycle.
Absolutely. So we got 7 days until early signing day next week. It's going to be interesting. You're going to want to pay attention to it on MizzouCentral.com with Joey Van Zumeren and his team. All right, so big deal, kind of a big positive and a small negative on the basketball front. Losing by 9 to Kansas in Lawrence, obviously hard place to play, big time opponent. But on the positive side, got a huge recruit, Dennis Gates, pulling in 5-star Aaron Rowe, right out of Missouri. So homegrown guy. Let's talk about basketball. You've got 3-4 games until SEC play gets started. It's a big December for Missouri, just like it is here in Alabama. So really, we're all waiting. We're all kind of looking at what's it going to be when SEC play comes out. How do you feel about the Missouri season? Obviously, you don't like losing to Kansas. That's never fun, but Kansas is Kansas. It's the tip top, and playing at Fog Allen Fieldhouse is no joke. So where does this leave Dennis Gates? Where does this leave Dennis Gates, the Missouri Tigers, as they head into SEC play?
Yeah, I think the Kansas loss specifically is, a really interesting point to look at for this Mizzou's basketball team. And where they're at exactly in this season. The highs have been high and the lows have been low. And this Kansas game, I view kind of similar to we were just talking about Mizzou football, but in 2022, their 9-point loss to Georgia. This is a 9-point loss to Kansas for this Mizzou basketball team, just in the fact of competing against a very, very good team in Kansas. And especially after coming off a loss last year, where it was the same old of losing to Kansas by, I think it was like 28, somewhere around there. So, you saw the growth from the results, not only from 2022 to 2023, but then also throughout the game. You could see this Mizzou basketball team kind of grow and adjust. Early on, even though they had that great lead that they built, Kansas mistakes, struggling with shooting was obviously playing a part in that. And then it looked like, in that middle 8 of the game, it looked like Kansas was just going to run away with it and was going to be the same old story. But through that last 15 minutes of the second half, really, Mizzou was able to stay within 10 for the entirety of the game. And the growth that I mostly saw was in that first 10 minutes that I mentioned, where they were able to build that lead. They were really looked unsettled. They were kind of very frantic. And I think Gates just had to tell them, like, you guys belong on the stage, play like it, calm down, take a deep breath. Even though we're having success right now, just settle into this a little bit. And they got more into that in that second half, even though they didn't end up winning, didn't end up having any big runs. But that was certainly growth. And, looking ahead to the recruiting side of this, this team is just going to be really exciting, I think, to watch in the coming years. This 2023 season is almost just a transition season for this team, losing Kobe Brown to the draft last year and now kind of left with, just a mismatch of players. So it'll be interesting in these coming years. Obviously, have one of the best recruiting classes for 2024, and then just starting off with Aaron Rowe to start off their 2025 class.
Dennis Gates, man, you think if you give him enough time, he's going to build something there at Missouri. He seems like a serious player with a serious plan and really, really behind the execution of that plan. I think that, Joey, you're in a great position with both the football and the basketball team to cover those programs. Tell everybody else what you're working on with MizzouCentral.com. Anything else in the Missouri athletic world that's caught your eye that we're leaving off the table, and then let everybody know where they can find all your coverage.
Okay, sure. So for Mizzou Central, we got great coverage of basketball and football.
And wrestling, can you? Well, how long do you? Joey, you look like maybe 165 or so, 155, just from the camera. How long would you last on the wrestling mat with the Missouri Tigers?
Oh God, it would be a short second. I don't know enough about wrestling to know if you can win a match in that time frame, but they would find a way to beat me. That the ambulance would be called very quickly. But yeah, I mean, they're having a great season as well, and kind of a overlooked team. They're third-ranked team in the country and coming off just dominating Wyoming. And we have Isabel Cool on Mizzou Central staff, and she does an amazing job writing about Mizzou wrestling. She is very passionate about it. But yeah, so she's one of our amazing writers. We got a great staff of students like me who are very passionate about it and providing coverage for Mizzou sports. Me and then two others of us, Matt and Chase, will be heading to the Cotton Bowl here in a few weeks to provide coverage on that. So I'm very excited for that. So you can find my stuff there on Mizzou Central. And then, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of my other takes on Twitter at JoeyVZ_.
Hey, man, just between you and I was at the Cotton Bowl, 2 years ago, Alabama, and Cincinnati. Those guys will roll the red carpet out for you, for the media. Honestly, amazing. The Cotton Bowl was incredible. The hotel in Dallas that they put you up in, and just the food and the amenities, and this event for the media tonight, that event for the media tonight. It's going to be a hell of a week for you, Joey. It's going to be great, and I really can't wait to follow your coverage. Follow Mizzou Central. Hey, we're hoping that Missouri puts that big old stamp on there. Yep. Thanks for your time today, Joey.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Joe.
No problem. That's Joey Van Zumeren, and you can follow him at JoeyVZ_ for MizzouCentral.com. And we appreciate him hanging out with us. So great. We've already talked to Jacob Bain. We talked to Joey Van Zumeren. So we've hit on the Mississippi State. We hit on the Missouri Central. We're going to talk about Alabama here in just a minute. We're going to wrap up this Monday show with a bit of Alabama Crimson Tide right here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, on Mizzou Central, and on CowbellCorner.com. Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa. Welcome back. This is the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. You heard us already with our friends from Cowbell Corner and our friends from MizzouCentral.com. Jacob Bain with Cowbell Corner and Joey Van Zumeren from MizzouCentral.com. It's now time for right here on the BamaCentral portion of the program. We're really happy to be a part of the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network right here with Blue Collar Unplugged. We've got a lot of fun things coming out with the basketball season still getting rolling, still kind of fresh in our minds. Alabama playing Creighton this coming weekend on Saturday. Whew, the Tide needing to get something going. But of course, you can follow us at Joe Gaither 6 on all the social media accounts, wherever you get your social medias. Send us your comments, questions, queries, and complaints. We appreciate everybody who's subscribed to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. We love you on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter as well. At BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com, BamaCentral on the Twitter machine, at Alabama Crimson Tide on Facebook, Alabama Crimson Tide on Sports Illustrated, on Facebook, and then at Alabama SI on Instagram. So you already heard some talk about Mississippi State. You already heard some talk about Missouri. Let's talk about Alabama. Big news out of USA Today involving Auburn. I've got handful of talking points, and we'll get out of here. But involving Auburn. All right, Auburn is in trouble. Okay, you heard me get really, really riled up a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, about Michigan and its cheating scandals, sending Connor Stallions to different opponents over the course of a couple of years and stealing signs. Well, it sounds like Dan Woken and the USA Today people, let's see, let me make sure I get my name right. Yeah, Dan Woken and the USA Today guys, writing an article today about scouting in college basketball and basically coaches using cameras in their arenas. And who was the main example that they used? The University of Auburn in 2016, 2017, 2018, 19 or so, or some of the kind of anonymous coaches who have been talking for this story. You can read it right there at usatoday.com. I don't really want to encourage you to go away from BamaCentral, but this is a kind of interesting / weird / unfortunate, unusual story. Friends that have been talking around the morning have insinuated that this is well known, that don't run any sets in opposing gyms, don't use walkthroughs for shoot around type purpose. If you wanted to run some sets or walk through some plays or walk through some concepts, do that in the hotels or in the ballrooms or in other places, in parking lots, but don't do it in opposing teams' gyms. It seems like a widely known concept around college basketball, but our man Dan Woken, who many people have different feelings about, I usually have negative feelings about him, but he is a reporter. He does find dirt. He singles out the enemy, a little bit of the enemy. He singles out Auburn. So what do we think? Bruce Pearl, Bruce Pearl, always been on the line, on the edge, has always kind of danced in the gray area. We all remember what happened with him at Tennessee. He may still be at Tennessee today if he didn't lie to the NCAA. And obviously, different people can view lying to different degrees, but the NCAA really, at that time, viewed lying to them in investigations as a serious thing. So he got hit, whatever, the show calls. He was out of basketball for a minute. He was out of the SEC. Then he got hired by Auburn, and Auburn's been, taking off. He got hired in 2014. He's in his 10th year, 10th, 11th, 9th, 10th year with the Auburn Tigers. And many people kind of are talking about, at least today, and at least his detractors are insinuating that, maybe Bruce Pearl's a dirty little cheater. Oh, goodness gracious, Bruce Pearl. Unfortunate. So I'm sure that nothing's going to happen from this story, at least at the moment, because a lot of these allegations seem many, many years old, seem to be, 2016, 17, 18, 19 in that range. So, 5+ years old. And it seems like everybody knows their lessons not to run sets in Auburn for their, pregame walkthroughs and such. Do that in the hotel rooms and then ballrooms and parking lots. So what, nothing's really going to happen from this. It seems Auburn was given a chance to respond to this story. At least that's what was written in USA Today. USA Today says they gave Auburn 4 full business days to respond to kind of this collection of quotes or this story so that they could add their 2 cents. Auburn did not. And so here we are. Just an interesting little wrinkle in the basketball season as we unfold here and keep things rolling right here in the second week of December. All right, you all know the transfer portal opened, and you've all been waiting. You've all seen we've seen 5 Alabama players go into the transfer portal. We talked about that yesterday with our friend Michael Bronner. You can tune into any of the old episodes. Our friend Michael Bronner joined us from WNSP yesterday on the program, and I appreciate everybody who's watched the Monday episode. Over 400 of you guys have watched the Monday episode. I appreciate all the support right there. But last Monday, the 4th, December 4th, last Monday, the transfer portal opened. The college football transfer portal opened. We've seen 5 Alabama players go into it thus far. And people have been, okay, everybody that you've seen go into it so far, no big deal. You'd like to see Ja'Cory Brooks, but you didn't really get a whole lot out of him this year. Seemed like there might have been some extraordinary factors, off the field factors for Ja'Cory Brooks. Also, all 5 guys in the portal, it's fine so far. But you start to wonder, is Alabama going to make some noise? It's busy. There's like 13, there's hundreds of guys in the transfer portal right now. There's got to be some guys that can help the Alabama Crimson Tide. And there seems to be one guy that at least Alabama has identified and is coming in for a visit. Let's talk about Fadil Diggs. Fadil Diggs is a defensive lineman out of where? Out of Texas A&M University, the Gig'em. All right, so he's a former 4-star recruit out of New Jersey. He was 6'5", 230 out of high school. Now he's 6'5", 260. At least that's what he's listed on the Texas A&M website. He's in the transfer portal, and he's got looks like one more year of eligibility. He is visiting Syracuse, and he's visiting Alabama. Now, granted, he is a northeastern kid, but come on, man. Syracuse and Alabama. He's got an official visit lined up with Alabama at the end of the weekend. Let's see. He has 36 tackles this season, combined solo and combined. Let's see. Do I have his solo? For the season, his solo was 22. So he's 36 total tackles, 22 solo tackles, 11 tackles for a loss, and with 4 sacks. You want to hear what he did against Alabama? You may not remember it because it was several weeks ago. But against the Crimson Tide, Fadil Diggs had 5 tackles, 2 sacks against the Crimson Tide with 2 tackles for a loss. So he was a nice little player there for Texas A&M. But Texas A&M going through some transitions, obviously getting Coach Elko into the fold, and they're figuring out what they want to do personnel-wise. And that dream recruiting class is going up in smoke. Fadil Diggs was not a part of that 2021 recruiting class, but a part of the 2020 recruiting class before that. Just another sign of transition, things going on when you get a new coach, roster movement, roster management. It'd be nice to get a guy already with SEC experience already and add him to this defensive line rotation for the 2024 roster. We talked about guys with Michael Bronner yesterday, guys we don't want to see go out, but anytime that you can add defensive depth, defensive line depth, quality defensive line depth, I think I think that'd be a great add out of the transfer portal, and maybe he doesn't become a starter, but becomes a rotational piece who gets in there and makes some plays and boosts his draft stock here with the Crimson Tide. But yeah, it'll be weird. I guess you look at 24/7. 24/7 Sports has his crystal ball as Syracuse right now, but he's just been obviously in the transfer portal for a couple of days now, and he has an official visit with the Crimson Tide coming up this weekend. What else do we have? As I'm losing my voice here, fighting through some phlegm on a Wednesday. What else do we have? We have Jalen Milrow's birthday is my last thing that I want to do right here. We want to thank our guys from the Cowbell Corner and from MizzouCentral.com. But we have Jalen Milrow's birthday, and Jalen Milrow was seen flying in a helicopter over Bryant-Denny Stadium. We want to say happy birthday to Jalen Milrow as he turns 21. Jalen Milrow and Brock Bowers both all have the same birthday. So if you were born on the 13th of December, happy birthday to you. But more importantly, happy birthday to Jalen Milroe, Alabama Crimson Tide quarterback. Alabama will reopen practice at the end of the week. We will have coverage on that at BamaCentral.com. A lot of early enrollees will be in town on Friday, enrolling and participating in bowl practice on Saturday. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully, we're going to be able to catch up with another recruit or two before they go behind the closed wall that is Alabama Crimson Tide Athletic Facility. We'll see who we can catch up with in the next day or so, as Friday is going to be a huge day. A lot of guys enrolling at the capstone. Julian Sayin being the leader among them. So bowl practice is going to get underway on Saturday. Alabama getting underway with Michigan. We can't wait to cover it right here at BamaCentral.com. I want to encourage you to follow all of us at BamaCentral.com. Katie Wyndham, Austin Hannon, Chris Walsh, myself, Joe Gaither, obviously, and the site at BamaCentral.com. We're going to have a fun week covering the transfer portal. We'll see if we get Fadil Diggs. They're 7 days away. Coach Saban is still on the road recruiting. We'll keep covering that. Be looking out for recruiting rundown on Friday, of course, as it drops on BamaCentral.com, if I can do my job for once in my life. I appreciate everybody who's tuned into the show for the last handful of days. It's been a lot of fun seeing the numbers grow. Share it with a friend. The Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, on Apple Podcasts, on Amazon, on Spotify, right there on YouTube. You can join me on Twitter, on Facebook as well. We appreciate everybody who's been a part of the show. So without further ado, we're going to get out of here on Wednesday. Happy birthday to Jalen Milroe, turns 21. Bruce Pearl and the barn is cheating. We'll see if anything comes of that. I predict nothing will come of that. And then we are keeping an eye on Fadil Diggs, a transfer from Texas A&M. 6'5", 260-pound defensive lineman, considering Alabama and Syracuse. And then we'll get out of here for the day. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.